After comprehending all 6 branches of the great Tao of destruction origin, Luo Feng found that without a complete reference of the destruction origin, his cultivation speed of the great Tao of life had inevitably slowed down. However, after reaching the godly king level, his entire foundation had transformed, his soul became far more stable and vast. His thinking speed increased dramatically, and his overall mental state entered a higher dimension of efficiency. Because of this, one era of cultivation now equaled the progress he had previously achieved in 20 eras. Although the speed of advancement in the life Tao was slower compared to his earlier explosive growth, it still far surpassed the average godly king of the land of origin, which made him relatively satisfied with his current progress. At the same time, he carefully evaluated the resources in his possession. His master had given him 10 primordial crystal spirit fruits for use during his cultivation in the primal chaos realm and the first realm of godly king. But due to his current body and soul being far stronger than ordinary cultivators at the same level, the effectiveness of these fruits had significantly diminished. After consuming one fruit across 12 eras, he only experienced a 30 to 40% improvement in thinking speed and a slight enhancement of his soul state, which was far below their original intended effect. Recognizing that these resources would be far more valuable to others, he decided to keep the remaining primordial crystal spirit fruits for primordial ancestor, whose cultivation level was still within the primal chaos realm and would benefit greatly from them. Afterward, Luo Feng turned his attention to his own combat capability and technique progression. The Chaos Whole 6 Strikes, which originated from the special grade inheritance, Chaotic Whole Beast Body, had already reached a level of refinement and depth that exceeded the earlier forms of the Extermination 72 Blades. When executed through his world life form avatar, even a partial display of its power could reach nearly half the strength of the Emperor of Tian Kun. Yet even such force was still unable to cause any visible impact on the Star Tower. Luo Feng recalled that when he first entered the Godly King realm, his combat techniques were still inferior to Emperor of Tian Kun, and he relied heavily on multiple avatars and his extremely strong survivability to contend with opponents. Now, however, his strength had undergone a complete transformation. Just 2 avatars were sufficient for him to stand on equal footing with a deeply accumulated second realm godly king. This transformation was not the result of a single breakthrough but rather the accumulation of multiple foundational achievements. First, his comprehension of the great Tao of life origin combined with special grade inheritance allowed him to master the 10 directions world form, significantly enhancing his overall combat framework. Second, his understanding of the great Tao of destruction origin, also fused with special grade inheritance, enabled him to grasp one of the most profound techniques within it, the Chaos Whole 6 Strikes. Third, his formless and intangible ability allowed him to transform materials required for the 10 directions world form, further strengthening his versatility. Finally, his perfect life form provided an enormous soul foundation, while his will had reached the bottleneck of the ultimate realm of God King, pushing his combat ability into a highly advanced tier within the first realm of Godly King. Even so, Luo Feng clearly understood his limitations. Although he was impressive within the first realm and could even contend with some deeply accumulated second realm Godly Kings, he still did not meet the requirements to cultivate the perfection level inheritance, 9 realms of extinction. That inheritance demanded a willpower that already surpassed the Godly King threshold at the entry stage. A condition so strict that only a handful of individuals across an entire source world could satisfy it. This realization made him aware once again that beyond his current achievements, there were still far higher mountains in cultivation. He might appear exceptional within the land of origin, but that perspective was limited to a single source world. Luo Feng then turned his attention to the Star Tower, an artifact he had refined and controlled since his earliest days, even back when he was only an eternal true god. At that time, he had been too weak to perceive its uniqueness, and he even believed that treasures such as the Bloodshadow Knife, Sha Wu Wings, and the Boat of Mausoleum were superior to it. However, after reaching his current level, he realized that his earlier judgment had been completely mistaken. Even now, despite possessing the strength to match deeply accumulated second realm Godly Kings, he still could not perceive even the faintest trace of the Star Tower's internal structure or underlying principles. This was particularly shocking because, by all logic, a treasure refined and nurtured by himself should have been the easiest to understand. Yet the star tower remained completely opaque. He suspected that its true nature might be related to a strand of golden light that had accidentally fused into it during the refinement process in the past. But even this explanation remained vague and unconfirmed. Compared to other weapons or secret treasures he had encountered, the star tower felt like something entirely beyond the scope of his comprehension. As if it did not belong to the same system of power. After pondering this without result, Luo Feng decided to temporarily set it aside and instead focused on cultivation. He sat cross-legged and began executing the Great Destruction Heart Refining Technique, from the Lai Yuan Technique. As the 6 branches of destruction origin resonated within him, the technique manifested as a terrifying dark chaotic vortex enveloping his spiritual will. This vortex continuously compressed, crushed, and refined his consciousness layer by layer, as if conducting a brutal purification process on his very mind. Under this pressure, Luo Feng's spiritual will was visibly being refined at a perceptible rate, becoming more condensed and pure. However, despite this transformation, his overall will strength remained firmly locked at the bottleneck of the ultimate realm of God Cain, unable to break through any further. Even so, the process was still highly beneficial, as it strengthened the quality and density of his will, laying a deeper foundation for future breakthroughs. In the city owner's mansion of Huyang City, Luo Feng received reports from his subordinates. Morosa and Moyu Hu arrived together to report serious developments within the 20 primal chaos prefectures under Luo Feng's control. They explained that across all major cities and regions, elite eternal true gods were being quietly selected and recruited by an unknown force. The pattern of recruitment was highly systematic. In each major city, only 3 to 5 elite individuals were chosen, making it difficult to detect at first glance. However, when viewed across all prefectures, the consistency of this behavior revealed a coordinated large-scale operation. Further investigation showed that this phenomenon was not limited to Luo Feng's territory. Similar recruitment activities were occurring across the Shi Kingdom, Yu Kingdom, and several other regions. Morosa's avatars had traveled extensively and confirmed that the infiltration range was extremely wide, suggesting that this was not a local faction but a hidden organization with influence spanning multiple major powers. Although the number of recruits per location was small, the widespread and synchronized nature of the activity indicated a deeply embedded network operating across the land of origin. Hearing this, Luo Feng became more cautious. He understood that for such an organization to operate freely across multiple kingdoms, it must possess significant backing or at least tacit approval from certain top-level forces. To avoid making an incorrect judgment, he first contacted external intelligence sources, including the Master of Yushui, to verify the situation. The response confirmed the existence of a powerful organization known as Life Mother River, which had already infiltrated roughly 30% of the entire land of origin and was actively recruiting elite eternal true gods everywhere. Luo Feng also recalled prior intelligence provided by Emperor Chu, who had previously warned him about this faction and its complex background. With this information fully confirmed, Luo Feng quickly formulated a response strategy. He ordered Primordial Ancestor to dispatch an avatar directly to the branch headquarters of the Life Mother River within his territories. The message was uncompromising. The organization must immediately and permanently withdraw from all 20 primal chaos prefectures under his control. However, Luo Feng also instructed that if the other side chose confrontation, there was no need for escalation. The avatar could simply disperse to avoid unnecessary conflict. Primordial Ancestor accepted the order and acted without delay. His avatar traveled to Kuyang Chaos State, entered Kuyang City, one of the prefectures under Luo Feng's jurisdiction, and bypassed all protective formations with ease. He arrived directly at the internal plaza of the Sect branch. The local members reacted with hostility, questioning his intrusion, but upon recognizing his identity as a former guest elder of the Flame-Wind ancient country, their attitude became more serious. Standing in the plaza, Primordial Ancestor calmly declared that he had come under Luo Feng's order to demand the immediate withdrawal of their forces from all 20 primal chaos prefectures, marking the transition from covert infiltration to direct territorial confrontation between Luo Feng's domain and the Life Mother River organization. A primal chaos realm entity stationed in a division of the Life Mother River within a cave mansion reacted with clear unease after receiving Yuan's order, issued under Luo He's authority, to withdraw from 20 primal chaos prefectures. And he immediately questioned whether Luo He had truly given such a command. Although he did not take Yuan seriously at first, considering him merely a newly promoted primal chaos realm existence who had become a guest elder of the Flame-Wind ancient country through Luo He's connections. The mention of Luo He's name still carried immense weight, since Luo He was a godly king capable of contending with Emperor Tian Kun. As a result, the matter was quickly escalated to God King Bei Feng. Bei Feng responded coldly and dismissively, stating that Luo He, despite his reputation, had no authority to interfere with the Life Mother River's operations. He emphasized that neither the Shi Kingdom nor the Yu Kingdom dared to oppose them, and questioned how Luo He could think to challenge their recruitment activities. Yuan was then formally addressed by Bei Feng, who rejected the withdrawal request outright, arguing that the Life Mother River had existed long before the establishment of surrounding kingdoms and had already spread across many territories. He insisted that their recruitment was legitimate, describing it as only one recruitment per city every 1,000 years, and therefore not excessive, when Yuan pointed out that their actions involved sweeping recruitment across 20 prefectures, selectively taking elite talents without even notifying the city lord. Bei Feng dismissed the concern and arrogantly told him that the city lord should simply investigate their identity if he wished to understand, implying that they were not to be provoked. Yuan, remaining composed, replied that while small-scale recruitment might be acceptable, their current actions were too broad and disruptive. However, Bei Feng only responded with contempt and told Yuan to leave, warning him not to overestimate Luo He's influence just because he could rival Emperor Tian Kun. At this point, the atmosphere suddenly shifted. Luo He personally descended, and in an instant, an immense and invisible force of world power descended upon the plaza, suppressing all energy fluctuations and altering the very laws of heaven and earth in the surrounding space. Bei Feng immediately recognized Luo He's arrival, and his tone became more restrained, though still firm. Luo He looked at him calmly and asked directly whether the Life Mother River was acting so arrogantly within his territory. Bei Feng, despite the pressure, still refused to yield and stated that the Life Mother River was deeply rooted in the region and could not withdraw. He further warned Luo He that although Luo He was exceptionally talented, there were existences in the land of origin that could not be provoked lightly. Luo He did not respond immediately but instead calmly repeated his ultimatum, demanding a clear answer, withdraw or not. At this point, Bei Feng became furious and shouted that Luo He was inviting disaster upon himself. Without further hesitation, Luo He's expression turned cold, and he directly unleashed his world power. The entire space collapsed inward as an overwhelming force descended upon Bei Feng, compressing his body and sealing all his movements. Despite being a first-realm godly king, Bei Feng found himself completely unable to resist, as Luo He's world power far exceeded his ability to struggle. Before being fully destroyed, Bei Feng angrily threatened Luo He, warning that he would regret this action. However, Luo He remained indifferent and stated that since Bei Feng had come without proper preparation or treasures, this would only be a small lesson. With a final surge of force, Luo He crushed Bei Feng's true body into dust, completely annihilating it within the plaza. The destruction of the true body was only a warning, as Luo He made clear that this was not a full punishment. Yuan, witnessing the scene, remained cautious and asked whether provoking the Life Mother River was appropriate. Luo He, however, remained calm and told him to wait for their response, while noting that internal members of the Life Mother River were still present in the cave mansion, all of them eternal true gods who posed no immediate threat. Meanwhile, in the deeper core of the land of origin, within a hidden dimension known as the Mother River World, the divine incarnation of God King Bei Feng returned and reported the incident in rage and humiliation. His report immediately caused outrage among the upper echelon of the Life Mother River. Many godly kings reacted angrily, stating that Luo He's actions were an outright provocation against their organization. Some argued for immediate retaliation, while others advised caution, noting Luo He's rising influence and combat strength. Within this gathering, a towering figure named God King Zongfu expressed interest in personally testing Luo He's strength, suggesting he wanted to see how many moves Luo He could withstand. However, other godly kings quickly discouraged him, saying there was no need for him to intervene in such a matter. Despite this, the atmosphere changed when a calm voice declared that the matter would be handled personally. The group immediately turned toward a figure in a black robe who seemed to merge seamlessly with the surrounding world. His presence both ordinary and unfathomably profound. All the godly kings present immediately stood and respectfully addressed him as the master of the Mother River. This black-robed figure was none other than God King Zongfu, the true leader and most powerful existence within the Life Mother River organization alongside another peak figure. The godly kings deferred to him completely, acknowledging his supreme status. God King Zongfu then stated that he would personally meet Luo He, while the towering God King Zongfu beside him also acknowledged the decision. He explained that Luo He was currently of average strength compared to top existences, but his potential was extremely high, and in the future, he might even influence the order of the entire land of origin. Therefore, it was necessary for him to meet Luo He personally. After this decision, Zongfu directly descended to the cave mansion plaza where Luo He was waiting. His arrival was not through ordinary movement but through a causal spatial method that allowed him to instantly appear regardless of distance. He calmly appeared in front of Luo He, his expression composed, his aura vast yet restrained, containing boundless life force and deep mystery. Luo He immediately recognized him as the master of the Mother River and the true God King Zongfu. Zongfu smiled and remarked that Luo He's mentor must have already told him about his identity. Luo He responded that as the most powerful servant of the Flame-Wind ancient country in its early era, it was impossible not to know of him. Zongfu then recalled his past, explaining that in the early days of the Flame-Wind ancient country under Emperor Yan, he had been the strongest guest elder god king, contributing immensely to the kingdom's expansion and battles. However, because his personal strength was too great and he possessed an extremely powerful weapon, Emperor Yan eventually feared him and mobilized the entire kingdom to suppress him. Zongfu believed that the reason was that rulers could not tolerate subordinates who might rival them, especially those without sufficient resources or ultimate realm lifeform status. He then looked at Luo He and stated that Luo He's potential might even surpass his own, warning that in the future, similar political dynamics could arise and Luo He might also face suppression. Luo He replied calmly that his mentors currently treated him well, implying no immediate concern. Zongfu acknowledged this and then shifted the discussion, stating that although they had been in conflict, he would agree to Luo He's demand and order the Life Mother River to withdraw from the 20 primal chaos prefectures immediately. However, he also added that this encounter could be considered the beginning of their acquaintance and implied that they might cooperate in the future. After finishing his words, Zongfu disappeared from the plaza. Luo He remained standing in place, slightly frowning, reflecting on Zongfu's final statement and considering the possibility that their future relationship could evolve into either alliance or conflict. Luo Feng felt that the intelligence he had received from his master, Emperor Chu, did not fully match his observations of the ruler of the Life Mother River. According to Emperor Chu's information, this ruler was extremely brutal, arrogant, and ruthless, cultivating both the great Tao of life origin and the origin Tao of causality, and possessing a terrifying secret treasure known as the causality wind. He was responsible for killing countless godly kings of the Flame-Wind ancient country and was regarded as its greatest enemy. However, within the constraints of the land of origin's supreme rules, both foreign and native beings had their power capped at different levels. Yet the ruler of the Life Mother River still proved extremely difficult to eliminate. Even when primogenitor Yan Feng once struck him down and destroyed all his avatars and revival methods within the land of origin, he later reappeared, suggesting he had unknown means of survival. This made even the Flame-Wind ancient country, despite its hatred, unable to truly kill him. Meanwhile, many godly kings hostile to Flame-Wind ancient country had defected to the Life Mother River, strengthening its influence and allowing it to act more openly and arrogantly. Luo Feng also knew that his own master, Emperor Chu, harbored a deep personal grudge against this figure, as a close relative had been killed by him, and multiple attempts at revenge had failed. Even so, in direct confrontation, Emperor Chu, an ultimate life form, still suppressed him, forcing the Life Mother River ruler to avoid direct conflict. Luo Feng was puzzled that despite such hostility, the Life Mother River seemed to believe he might cooperate with them, especially given the arrogance of figures like godly King Bei Feng. He reflected on his indebtedness to Emperor Chu, Emperor Ming, and others who had supported him, then decided to leave with the primordial ancestor. At the Fiery Fire Sect's recruitment grounds, the situation abruptly changed. The sect, acting under orders from the Life Mother River, withdrew entirely from the 20 primal chaos prefectures under Luo Feng's rule and cancelled all recruitment. This left hundreds of invited eternal true gods disappointed and frustrated, as they had traveled far hoping for a rare opportunity to join. They recognized that while the Fiery Fire Sect was powerful, it could not oppose City Lord Luo, especially after his renowned battle with the Master of the Shi Kingdom. After returning to the City Lord's mansion, the primordial ancestor explained that ordinary eternal true gods depended heavily on sect opportunities and inheritances, and the withdrawal of the Fiery Fire Sect had removed a major pathway for their advancement. He suggested that Luo Feng should begin cultivating talent in advance. However, Luo Feng was indifferent to territorial expansion, stating that power and cultivation mattered more than governance. The primordial ancestor warned that if Luo Feng became strong enough in the future, even emperor-level figures like the Emperor of Tian Kun might offer compensation or territory. Luo Feng, however, dismissed such possibilities in his mind, considering even confrontation with Tian Kun a potential inevitability. The discussion shifted to the welfare of ordinary cultivators. The primordial ancestor emphasized that oppressive rulers would cause suffering similar to other devastated regions, while Luo Feng's rule could create a far better environment. This insight made Luo Feng reconsider, and he agreed to establish a sect, the Blade River Sect, to systematically recruit and cultivate disciples. He entrusted the primordial ancestor with managing the sect's rules and recruitment, given his deep understanding of beings' emotions and societal structures. However, Luo Feng took responsibility for creating inheritance techniques himself, using his profound comprehension of the great Tao of life and destruction, as well as his accumulated insights from high-level inheritances. He quickly created 15 godly king-level inheritances, divided mainly between life and destruction paths, with a few based on incomplete Tao references. These inheritances were highly refined, with clear progression paths to the primal chaos realm and beyond, surpassing many existing methods. The primordial ancestor was astonished by their quality and immediately recognized their value for the sect's foundation. Finally, with the Blade River Sect's core teachings established, Luo Feng approved the start of large-scale recruitment. The sect, backed by his reputation and territory, was expected to attract countless eternal true gods and become a dominant force far beyond the influence of the Life Mother River factions. The establishment of the Blade River Sect near Huyang City becomes a major regional event across dozens of primal chaos prefectures, drawing widespread celebration and attention after it is revealed that the sect is founded by Luo Feng, whose reputation has already peaked following his rise to godly king level and his decisive confrontation with the master of the Shi Kingdom, during which he seized 10 primal chaos prefectures, establishing himself as a top-tier existence in the region. The sect's first recruitment far exceeds expectations despite extremely strict entry requirements, with cultivators flooding in not only from the surrounding 20 primal chaos prefectures but also from both the Shi Kingdom and Yu Kingdom, ultimately resulting in the recruitment of 1.508 eternal true gods, more than 30.000 void true gods, and over 50.000 true gods, a scale that surprises even the administrators. Yuan explains that this surge is due to the lack of comparable sect systems in both kingdoms, where top eternal true gods are usually only selectively recruited by monarch-level figures, leaving a vast number of talented cultivators seeking opportunities. While Morosa notes that despite their efforts to raise the standards, the final numbers still far exceed expectations. Luo Feng accepts this outcome as part of the sect's early expansion and delegates full management to Yuan and Morosa, while instituting a disciple quota system of 10 registered disciples and 1 direct disciple to maintain internal competition. A decision that immediately pressures Morosa as he realizes Luo Feng may be preparing a second direct disciple, threatening the status of his current chosen disciple Moyu Qingyan, whose cultivation progress remains far behind top geniuses despite heavy resources, forcing Morosa to intensify training efforts to prevent marginalization as stronger disciples emerge. In the broader context of the Shi Kingdom and Yu Kingdom, Luo Feng reflects that rulers such as the Shi Kingdom Master and Yu Country Monarch do not prioritize sect building, preferring direct control of elite disciples. And even Luo Feng himself was once considered for recruitment by the Yu country monarch. Highlighting the rarity of true genius-level cultivators. Although the Blade River Sect gains massive local influence, it remains only a second-rate force in the wider land of origin with Luo Feng as its sole true powerhouse. After half an era, Luo Feng receives an invitation from the Reincarnation Tower through Emperor Gui Shu to explore the treasure land known as the Dream Domain, prompting him to enter the Reincarnation Tower space where he meets Gui Shu, Cloud Sky God King, and Wuxia God King. Forming a 4-member team, Gui Shu expresses surprise that Luo Feng accepts the invitation, noting his recent activities including becoming a God King, fighting the Emperor of Tian Kun, and founding a sect. While Luo Feng states he has just finished stabilizing his affairs, the group discusses survival strategies in the land of origin, with Cloud Sky warning that sects can become vulnerabilities. Gui Shu emphasizing Luo Feng's strong survival via avatars and multi-daos, and Wuxia stressing that survival ability outweighs killing power. While their discussion references Gui Shu's past death and reincarnation after being surrounded by 3 emperors and Wuxia's repeated escapes from the flame-wind ancient country, including his deliberate reincarnation to protect his clan, and Gui Shu's subsequent retaliation by killing multiple newly advanced god kings of that country. They then focus on the Dream Domain, a high-level treasure land left by Yuan that requires forceful entry or high-cost affiliation, with Luo Feng noting the risks of entering through the flame-wind ancient country, but agreeing to join the expedition due to team support. Roles are assigned with Gui Shu and Wuxia handling combat, Cloud Sky managing domain control, and Luo Feng focusing on reconnaissance using his avatars, which are ideal for scouting due to expendability. The team acknowledges that Luo Feng's inclusion significantly increases success rates, discusses other top figures such as Empress Wind Capital, Earth God King, Great Freedom Sovereign, Tian Kun Emperor, and Black Fire Demon Lord who rarely participate unless major treasures are involved, and finally agrees to gather at Huangyao Mountain in 3 days to begin the Dream Domain expedition. In the underground quiet room of the Star Tower in Huyang City's City Lord Mansion, Luo Feng operates both his perfect divine body and world life form at the same time. The perfect divine body has fully recovered to its peak state by continuously absorbing energy from his internal small universe, while the world life form has accumulated reserves reaching about 60% of the perfect divine body. Luo Feng then studies the Bloodshadow Knife, a weapon engraved with dense secret patterns and filled with a pure destruction aura, naturally suited to the path of destruction. He has already comprehended 3 strikes of the Chaos Hole 6 strikes, and fully integrated them into the Bloodshadow Knife, allowing the weapon to directly execute these techniques with minimal activation time and greatly reduced burden on his spiritual will. He realizes that a weapon personally nurtured by a cultivator provides extreme compatibility, reducing mental strain in combat and freeing spiritual will for additional techniques or battlefield control. Based on his estimation, even if he only uses 1/10 of his world life form energy while wielding the Bloodshadow Knife, he could still unleash power approaching peak godly kings such as Emperor Gui Shu or Wuxia God King, though he has no intention of relying on this level of force for now, since his current combat approach emphasizes multiple avatars and tactical coordination rather than direct confrontation with top-tier experts like the Emperor of Tian Kun. He continues analyzing cultivation paths and concludes that the path of destruction is far easier to comprehend and complete than the great Tao of life and death, which requires merging opposing principles and lacks a clear directional framework, making progress extremely slow despite his mastery of more than 10 God King level secret techniques. He also judges that his spiritual will has already reached its current ceiling and may attempt a breakthrough to beyond God King level during the first realm God King stage. Comparing historical cases such as Emperor Qing and the Lord of 10,000 Realms, who achieved it after Tao completion, and Emperor Ming, who reached it at the second realm God King stage, while believing his perfect divine body and Yuan's Lai Yuan technique give him a stronger foundation for an earlier breakthrough. He then focuses on Yuan's inheritance treasures and identifies the Dream Domain as the most suitable place to cultivate the Great Destruction heart refining technique, despite its dangers such as deep mental influence and potential eternal sleep like entrapment, and decides to allocate 1/10 of his world life form energy to form a silver-clad avatar for exploration. 3 days later, Emperor Gui Shu arrives at Huangyao Mountain, a vast mountain spanning tens of trillions of kilometers. To lead the mission, he is soon joined by Cloud Sky God King, who conceals her aura due to her identity in the Reincarnation Tower. Followed by Wuxia God King and Luo Feng in a disguised form. Luo Feng's disguise is not merely cosmetic, he reshapes his body and aura, incorporating traits of the golden-horned giant beast while transforming his life aura into a destruction-dominant form, making him appear fundamentally different from his original self. Emperor Gui Shu and the others observe this transformation, noting the stark contrast with his previous life aura. Wuxia God King explains that many cultivators in the land of origin specialize in the path of destruction or use clone techniques, so such changes are not unusual. Emperor Gui Shu then briefly explains the structure of the 9 origin great Daos under the supreme rules, noting that time, causality, extreme point, and infinite Daos are the hardest and least cultivated, while space, matter, world, life, and especially destruction are more widely practiced, with destruction having the largest number of godly king cultivators due to its connection with combat and killing. After preparations, Wuxia God King activates his hidden sky tunneling technique. An invisible force instantly envelops all 4, merging them with the flow of heaven and earth laws, completely erasing their spatial fluctuations, sensory traces, and even causal connections. Luo Feng is deeply impressed, realizing that even direct perception, spatial locking, and causality tracking become ineffective, which explains why Wuxia God King has repeatedly survived assassination attempts from the flame-wind ancient country, including pursuits by emperors. Under this technique, the group rapidly tunnels through vast regions of the land of origin, crossing enormous distances in a distorted perception state. Eventually, they arrive at a massive dark canyon that serves as the entrance to the dream domain. The canyon is completely dark, swallowing light and perception, and even godly kings cannot easily probe inside. Wuxia God King explains that the entrance cannot support stable formations, so both ancient countries deploy mobile formation experts instead of fixed defenses. As they enter, Luo Feng feels a faint pull on his spiritual will, but easily resists it. Inside, the space is heavily distorted and covered by overlapping formations from both the flame wind and thunder ancient countries, which despite their usual hostility, jointly blockade the entrance. Wuxia God King explains that their formations complement each other, sealing all entry routes and forcing independent godly kings into difficult conditions. While moving deeper, Luo Feng observes a white-robed figure from the Thunder Ancient Country's imperial clan sitting as a formation node, guarding a black fruit tree with exactly 666 fruits that are not yet mature. Cloud Sky God King notes that such treasures belong to the controlling forces and are not worth fighting over at this stage. The group continues forward, avoiding golden chain formations deployed by the Flame Wind Ancient Country, which scan and seal the entire region. Despite the intensity of these formations, Wuxia God King's tunneling technique completely avoids detection. After about half a day, they successfully exit the full formation coverage of both ancient countries. Wuxia God King explains that his technique operates at an extreme level of concealment, and Emperor Gui Shu identifies it as the ultimate realm secret art, hidden sky tunneling technique, one of the rarest movement techniques in the land of origin. Finally, the group prepares to enter the middle layer of the dream domain, with Emperor Gui Shu assigning Luo Feng the role of scout due to his flexibility, multiple avatars, and ability to adapt quickly in unknown environments.